everyone, my name is Tori, this is Novel Life, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my November wrap-up. So November was quite a reading month for me. I did read a decent amount of books, but they weren't like the best. Like I only had 3 5-star reads. 2 of those were rereads, so I don't really know what's up with me, but I am going to be doing some rereads in December and reading some really good fantasy romances because that's what I'm in the mood for. With all that being said, let's go ahead and get into some statistics. I read 18 books in November. 3 of those were ebook, 14 were audio, and 1 were physical. I had a huge, and I mean huge, audiobook month. Like 75% of my books were all audiobooks. I did have, like I said, 3 5-star reads. I had 3 4.5 stars, 8 4 stars, 2 3.5 stars, and 2 3 stars. Now for the page count, I had 7,488 pages read. Like I said, I read some good books and I had a good time with a lot of them, but they weren't like all-time favorites, and I love to find all-time favorites, especially in the last half of the year, in the last 2 months of the year, and I'm really sad I didn't find any in November, but it's okay. It's okay. So we're gonna go ahead and dive into all the books. Now the first one I read in November was Broken Harbor by Catherine Cowles. I listened to the audiobook of this one. This is her newest release in the Sparrow Fall series. We have a hockey hero, we have a baker heroine. She's a single mom on the run, and she kind of moves in with him because he has a huge house and her landlord was being an asshole. I give this book 5 stars. I love Catherine Cowles books. I love the Sparrow Fall series, so definitely pick up these if you haven't read them already. Like I said, it's the 3rd book, and I love the whole series. I did read a couple of Laurie Gilmore's books this month. So I read The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore at the beginning of November, and I was really excited about this one because I've heard like, oh, a lot of people would love it if you're kind of like going into your 30s and stuff like that, and I turned 30 this year, so I was really excited to see what this was all about. And I will say I gave this book 4 stars. It was cute, it was fun. I was expecting more fall vibes because of the cover, but it really takes place at the end of summer, beginning of fall, and it was fine because it was starting to cool down here where I live, so I was fine with it. It was adorable. I really enjoy this series. Our female character, she owns the bookstore, and you see that she starts finding all these like little notes of like, oh, try this, try that, oh, like step out of your comfort zone, and our hero, who is like her friend, goes to help her and all that stuff like that. I thought it was super cute. I love a good friends to lovers, so I really enjoyed this one. And then I listened to an ALC of Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage. I listened to this on Libro FM. Every month Libro FM will have certain audiobooks that you can download if you're on the influencer program, and they had this book early, and I will say I enjoy this series, but none of the books have been like stand out super wow. Like they're just good small town cowboy-ish on a ranch romances, if that makes sense. So I did end up giving it like 3.5 4 stars. It is very similar to Heartless by Elsie Silver. I heard that after I read it, and I was like, wow, actually there are a lot of similarities. We have our female character. She is like very out there, as in like unapologetically herself. She becomes the nanny for our single dad, and it's, you know, they're forced together, forced proximity. I think they've had something in the past. It's her best friend's brother, so there's a little bit of like similarities, but it's definitely its own story, if that makes sense. And like I said, I enjoyed it. It was a fun time. I like Teddy and how, like, I don't want to say like spunky, but like she is herself. She's very quirky, she's very like out there, she does what she wants and she does not care. So yeah, it was a fun, good time. Like this is just a solid series. I would recommend if you want like small town romances, but there's like nothing like wowza about it, if that makes sense. And then I read a couple of historical fiction books and some lit fit books. So I did read these all in a Read It or Unhaul It episode, which I'm starting here on my channel, which I'm very excited for. So I read The Paris Library by Janet Scalene Charles. Now this takes place in World War II at the Paris Library in France. You see that she's French and her parents don't like it that she's working at the American library there, but it's kind of like, you know, you see a bunch of characters, some from the US, some there. Now this is Nazi occupied France, so you see a lot of how like books play a part of that, and how like a lot of them are being banned from given to Jewish people and Jewish sympathizers and stuff like that. So it is very interesting. It is a very powerful book. There is like a dual POV where you go back and forth, and like then now. That's not my favorite in this book. I felt like it took me out of the story. I ended up giving this book a 3.5 stars, so if I give anything 3.5 or lower, I'm supposed to unhaul it. But I really do like this hardback, so I'm hanging on to it because I need to fill my wrap up. So I may be I may be giving it away, I don't know. I did enjoy this. It was a really good story, solid story. It's obviously it's super important. It didn't make me cry or anything like that, but it was okay. And then I read Normal People by Sally Rooney, and while I ended up giving this book 4 stars, I listened to the audiobook and I really think that is like a game changer because of the way she writes. There's no like quotations or stuff, but there is like a he said, she said part, like I said this, he said that kind of a thing. And so while I did enjoy this book, it really made me think about a lot of things. I don't know why. It's one of those lit fit books where the ending is somewhat abrupt for some people, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy like lit fit books like this that make me think, and this book really made me think. And so I think I am going to read more from Sally Rooney. I did order some of her paperbacks from Hanko that were like used and stuff like that. So I'm very interested in her writing. So if you have a favorite Sally Rooney book, please let me know in the comments down below. I would love to know because I'm very interested in her writing and I really enjoyed this one. The last book I read for that vlog was The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, and unfortunately this ended up being a 3-star for me. So I did read The Women this year in January and February when it was released. I loved that book. I absolutely loved that book. I thought it was beautifully written. I thought it was like epic and amazing. And so I wanted to read some of Kristen Hanna's backlist. And a lot of people said that they sobbed in this book. And I said, okay, this is the book that's been on my shelf the longest by her. Like I've had this paperback for a while. Let me give it a go. And it is too long. It is way too long of a book, and because this was written in like 2015, I think it was published, I've read a lot of historical fiction books since, you know, I've been reading historical fiction for the last couple of years, where it's a lot shorter, and it does have this sisters, it has, you know, things that happen. I don't want to give anything away, but like it wasn't unique enough to this story. But I think if you would have read this years and years ago when it came out, you probably would have been wowed and you loved it. This one just didn't work for me. It was way too long and the POVs were fine for me. I didn't mind the POV switches, but I was like, wow, this is led up to a lot of stuff. Like I love the last 20-30%, but that first 60%, 70% was very, very long, and I don't think it needed to be that long. So fortunately this one was not for me. So I have to unhaul this paperback, but it's been on my shelf for like 4 years, so I'm not mad that I read it because I did read it, but now I have to unhaul it. So then because I was just feeling not slumpy, but I was like, wow, I had some like had one good book and 2 okay books back to back to back, I decided to reread Binding and Keeping 13. So these are the special editions from Eternal Embers that I absolutely love. I love these covers. These are from the Larry Reads collab. I just think she did an amazing job with all the little pieces, and I will forever cherish these. But these are just like a comfort read to me. I love the Boys of Toman series, and so I listened to both of these as a reread. I ended up giving these both 5 stars again on my reread. I don't think they will ever not be a reread. Are they a little long? Yes. But that is the point. You are going along with these characters and you are finding out about their lives and what's going on and getting into their lives and their heads. And I love Johnny and Shannon so freaking much. Like I don't think you guys realize how much I love them, but these are my babies and I love them. I was going to move on to Saving and Redeeming 6, which I have read already. I read it twice already, but those just hit me more emotionally than these books, which are like, how is that possible? What Joey goes through during those 2 books just really hit me on an emotional level, like super personally, and sometimes I have to like mentally prepare myself, and I wasn't prepared to read them, but it's okay. I read these 2 books. I love them. It was like the perfect middle of the month. I spent like a week rereading them and I was not mad about it in the slightest because I love those books so fucking much. Okay, and then I read my first holiday book of the season, and that was Tied Together by Bailey Jane. So if you're looking for a holiday book that is a little bit different, set in like a different setting, you need to read this book. So basically we have our male and female characters. They work together. They work for a magazine, and you see that the branch in Paris had like a what is the department clean out. A lot of people left to go work for like a rival, so they kind of have to build up the department from the ground up again, and they are tasked to go over to France around the holiday season. So it's right after Thanksgiving they leave, and they're supposed to be there all of December, kind of right over Christmas, and they're supposed to come back right at the new year. And so you see that they're doing all of these Christmassy things in Paris, and I loved that. It was so different, so adorable. I think this is Bailey Jane's like first book, if I'm not mistaken, like her first published book. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I really love this. I thought it was adorable. I love the hero. I love the heroine. There was a little bit of stuff at the end that wasn't my favorite thing in books, which is why I didn't give it a higher rating. But for the first debut book, it was good and I loved it, and I would recommend it for this holiday season. Also, this cover is super adorable. So then I decided to pick up some books that have just been like on my TBR. I borrowed them from my library and I said, you know what, I'm just gonna read them. So I read Fireline by Maggie Gates. I actually started this at the beginning of November and then I finished it in the middle of November. This is the third book in her, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the series. I can't remember the series, but you can read them completely out of order. Basically, it's about this family who owns this ranch, and it is like a cattle ranch, but then they're kind of like developing it into like a hotel and a restaurant and stuff like that. And this hero in particular, this brother in this book, does not like it that, you know, they've had to like upgrade and change the ranch, you know, that's been in his family for generations. And our heroine is actually someone who works at the restaurant, but you don't know that because they have a one-night stand previously. He goes to the town over, she's at a bar, she's hanging out, she swindles him out of some money during playing pool. They have a little bit of a hookup, they go their separate ways, and then when she starts like a week or two later at the restaurant, she's like the head chef basically that's hired. He's like, what the heck are you doing on my ranch? So I loved it. It was very much enemies to lovers, very much the hate to love aspect. There is some romantic suspense in there, which I wasn't expecting, but I did enjoy. So yeah, it's a solid series. I gave it 4 stars. I gave both books in this series that I've read 4 stars, so I have to go back and read the first book. I heard that one is also really good, but overall, it's a solid series. And then I read The Unmaking of June Farrow, and this is where I started to read some really good books, and I'm not mad about it. So this I've seen around is like, oh my god, I love this book, so powerful, so emotional. But I was like, ooh, I don't really know a lot of things about this book. Like, what is it really about, right? So basically, this is like a, I don't even know, time travel romance? It's basically, if you like Outlander, like the TV show, but you don't want to read the books because they're too damn long, read this book and you're gonna love it. Now, it's not set in Scotland or anything like that. It's set in the United States, but she has this, the whole family, the Farrow women, June Farrow is her name, so all the Farrow women slowly go kind of insane throughout their life, and she just had to bury her mother that's raised her, and you see that she kind of, for the last year, she's been seeing hallucinations and delusions and stuff like that, and that is basically because there is like a veil between times, and so that time that she can go back to is like slowly creeping into this time. And it was twist and turny. I loved it. I was not expecting a lot of the things in this book, and I don't want to say anything more than that because I feel like anything else would be a spoiler, but I went into this book completely blind and I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. Another 4.5 star read that I read was Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews, I think. So I saw this like going around, I think YouTube. I saw Lachlan from Locke's Library reading this, and she said she was enjoying it, but then I saw that it was on the Goodreads Choice Awards for YA adult, YA fantasy. I think it was for YA, one of the YA categories, and I was very intrigued because I love the cover. Now this is a, I would consider it gothic horror, dark academia, YA, absolutely. Like, it gives all the vibes that I love, and I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. There are a lot of deep and emotional topics talked about this, so definitely if you need the trigger warnings or anything like that, check those. But I love it. Basically, it's an MM book. You see one of our characters, they, fight demons in the forest, like fight these creatures and stuff. They fight them off, and you see that his friend, who is mostly from his point of view in the book, you see that he's trying to figure out what's going on with him, and he figures out, oh, he's fighting these, you know, demons in the forest, and he goes to help him, and so they kind of like team up and they're trying to figure out how to get it to stop so he can like have sleep and all this stuff like that because they're flunking out of school. And the ending was beautiful but also very like emotional. I don't know how else to describe it, but I loved it. I really enjoyed that book. I also read one of my most anticipated releases was The Songbird and the Heart of Stone by Carissa Broadbent, and I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I was incredibly disappointed by this book, and I wish I could tell you that I think that you would enjoy it if you liked blah blah blah. I don't have anything to compare it to. So obviously you see our female character at the end of the first duology. Misha is Rain's like friend, female friend, not like in a romantic way, just someone that they have been traveling with for a long time. Like, you see their relationship in the first 2 books, and you see something that happens in the last book, and this is like picks up right then. And so it's like a forced proximity, kind of like she's in enemy territory and she's sent to, his name's Azar, I think is actually how you pronounce it, and he basically is like the keeper. What do they call him? Something, the wounded something, I forgot what it was, but basically he's a scarred character, and you see that he has to like, he has a task from one of the gods, and it gets like very, it's okay. It's basically a retelling of the seven depths of hell. So you go to every level and stuff like that, and it was okay. I was just expecting to be wowed. I don't know if I will pick up the second book because it's not complete, because it's a duology, and I knew that going in, so I'm not mad about that, but I just like have really no desire to pick up the second book, which really makes me sad because I loved the Crowns of Nyaxia series. So unfortunately that was a 3-star read for me. I did start some more Christmas romances. I read Wreck My Plans by Jillian Meadows, and this was a 4.5-star read. My patrons picked this for a weekend reading vlog, and I listened to the audiobook and I loved it. It's like a 7.5-8 hour audiobook, super adorable. Brother's best friend, she goes home for Christmas. She finds that her brother's best friend, who hasn't been there for a very, very long time, like 3 or 4 years, is there because he thought that she wasn't going to be there, but she shows up because her friend got sick, so she wants to go home. They're forced together for like a week, and they kind of rehash a lot of things that happened, and I loved it. It was super adorable. Mental health rep. Thought it was really good. And then I read The Christmas Tree Farm by Lori Gilmore. This was the second book that they picked for that weekend reading vlog, which I always have a 7-day free trial. You can join and watch that vlog, 7-day free trial. It's always linked in my Patreon. It's always linked in the description box, but I end up giving this 4.5 stars as well. This is just a super adorable series. Like, I don't know what else to say other than it's super adorable. Now this one is a little bit different. You see our female character, she buys a Christmas tree farm that is in this small town, and you see that the character from the second book, the second book, her brother comes into town for like a month, and he's like this techie person that can work from home type of a thing. So he has 2 dogs, and they meet in the Christmas tree farm, and he sees that everything's like dilapidated and run down. So she spends time like building it back up and stuff like that. She wants to do something for herself. So they're both kind of outsiders to the town, but the town kind of like embraces them, and it's super adorable, and I thought it was cute. Like, it's a good holiday book. Gave it 4 stars. And then I read my Leave It to the Pros book club pick for November. Leave It to the Pros is a book club that I run with Christy from Christy Reads a Lot. We read historical fiction, and we read The Lies We Leave Behind by Noelle Salazar. So this is a new release by her. It came out in the beginning of November, and Noelle Salazar is one of my favorite historical fiction authors. I really love her books. The Flight Girl is one of my all-time favorite historical fiction books, and this one I ended up giving 4 stars. So I've read a lot of her books minus one that's like set in the Jazz Age, but anything set in like World War I or World War II I've read by her, and I think she kind of is exploring things with her writing, which I'm not mad about. So this book is written in a little bit different point of view, and it has a lot different elements, like more of a Kate Quinn mystery element to it, and I wasn't mad about it. It just took a turn where I wasn't expecting. So overall, I enjoyed the read. I never wanted to DNF it at all. I would definitely recommend it. I loved the book. I loved the twists and turns in there. You see a character now that was part of our female character's past then in like the 40s. So it's interesting to see kind of like those two perspectives, which I don't think she's written that before, but I wasn't mad about it. I really enjoyed it, so I gave it 4 stars. So I love our Leave It to the Pros book club. We started that this year. We'll definitely be doing it next year. We're reading more of like a holiday one for December, so you can join us. It'll be on my channel. But yeah, we also have an Instagram. It's just Leave It to the Pros book club. And then I ended November with 2 little novellas. So I filmed a December reset where I decorated my house for Christmas, where I, you know, put up all, obviously, my tree, my lights and stuff like that behind me. I had to like film, and I had to edit some stuff. I had to like do my reading journal for this wrap up. I listened to Once Upon a Christmas by Lulu Moore. This is like a prequel to a new series that she's coming out with. And there is an author's note at the beginning of the book that says it ends on a quote-unquote happy for now. I don't know if I would count it as a happy for now, but she does say that this couple gets a full-length book in this series. So they're not next, but they get a book. So I wasn't expecting them to be together at the end at all, if that makes sense. It was super adorable. You see these group of British people, they're like, what do you call them, like their hierarchy in England or whatever. They come to Aspen, Colorado for the holidays because the oldest brother, something happened with his marriage and it didn't go through. Like, they didn't actually have a marriage because his wedding was called off, so all the brothers get together and they go to Aspen, Colorado. Our hero in this novella actually hates Christmas, so he's learned to like love Christmas because she loves Christmas. So super cute. I gave it 4 stars. It was adorable. And then I read Children Thrilled by Cleo White. So Children Thrilled is a novella, but it is a forbidden romance between our female character and her best friend's dad, and they work together. So she started working for his company about a year ago. She's like 24, he's like 41. There is a decent age gap, and basically she leaves the office before like a really bad snowstorm and is almost hit by a car, and he kind of saves her and is like, you're coming home with me. And they kind of have like, they spend Christmas week together and they give into their feelings that have been there for like a year or two, and it was good. It was a spicy fun time. I mean, like, other than being snowed in together, that's not really like Christmassy, holiday-y, but I had a good time with it, so I gave it 4 stars. It was good. But those are all the books that I read in November. You can let me know what your favorite read of the month was. I would love to know in the comments down below. For an emoji, what kind of emoji? Leave me a snowflake emoji, even though it's not snowing here. That Snowed in Romance is the last book I read, so leave me a snowflake emoji in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content for me. As always, I hope you're living a novel life, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.